I want to look at this. We've mentioned it a bunch of times, all right? But with new offensive coordinator, now head coach, Thomas Brown, we got 3 games, enough of a sample size for me to be able to kind of extrapolate this a little bit for a playoff picture. Over that 3-week span, Keenan Allen and DJ Moore are tied for second amongst wide receivers in targets. They both have 30 targets in 3 games. That's unbelievable. More, and this is over that same span, DJ Moore has more receptions than anyone else in the NFL. Keenan Allen is wide receiver 8. DJ Moore is wide receiver 6 in receiving yards. Keenan Allen is wide receiver 18. Keenan has 3 touchdowns. DJ Moore's found the end zone twice. DJ Moore is averaging 21.4 fantasy points over that stretch. Great. So when I look at what he is doing, knowing that both these guys have 30 targets over that span, and you look at what this unbelievable strength of schedule is for the second half of the year, it feels like we are in a really good spot for these guys. 4th easiest schedule the rest of the way based on Mike Clay's strength of schedule, with both of these guys having 30 targets. And by the way, Rome Odunze, he's got 27 targets over that span as well. The production hasn't been there, but he's been getting the volume. This entire offense is doing this thing. It just keeps getting better and better with Thomas Brown being able to help uplift his rookie quarterback, and that helps every single pass catcher in this offense.
I was just going to say, if you want like the good vibe on it, it's that the trajectory is going in the direction where we would hoped it would go when the season began. Like much better that it's going this way than if it started with them all being productive and falling off a cliff. So I think peaking at the right time.
100%
Good
they are.
choice.
But look, so like just last segment, you were saying, you want more out of DeAndre Swift, and that, so like this is what I'm saying, the balance.
Right.
You're right.
Right?
Like all those targets are going to the wide receivers, and I'm happy about that. So that's very fair.
Yep.
Who wants to go next? Stefan, you want to take the next one?
I'll go next with a guy we already referenced in the waiver wire section, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Sometimes you need a guy to be a league winner for you in the end that is a guy you didn't know you needed, right? We could go and list all the players who are supposed to be productive, but here's a guy that nobody was talking about, that Mike Clay insists all the models do not account for, and he's coming off a 2-touchdown week that takes him to 8 touchdowns in 8 games. You like that if you play fantasy. Now, his touchdown to reception ratio is unlikely to be sustained. He's got 8 touchdowns and 20 receptions.
That's 40%
in the last
of his
6 games. I know, but his targets are going up.
Yeah.
So that means his chances for scoring are going up, and his fantasy production is going to be there, because it also is telling me that Will Levis is increasingly looking for him. So I like that it's going in that direction. These are also, the Titans are a team that does not have a bye coming up, so you don't have to worry about that. You're going to have them available. And best of all, take a look at the super enticing schedule that they face for the rest of the season. The Jags in week 14, the Bengals, you can throw against them. They're at the Colts, and they get the Jags again in an away game, home to the Texans. Listen, this is an opportunity for Nick Westbrook-Ikhine to shine for your team.
We got to project more targets because the production has been there. I just want to feel a little bit better about the volume, Stephania, but he's making hay with what he's been given.
And don't forget, this is a time of year where the waiver wire may be slim pickings. You may not have a lot of great choices. You're not going to get your superstars, and you probably can't trade, because in a lot of leagues, your trade deadline has passed. So,
or tomorrow at noon for those that haven't had it yet.
For those that haven't, right. So you may still be able to make a trade, but in most cases, you're just trying to pick someone up off the waiver wire. He's available, and I think he could be a nice roster stash if you need him. If one of your guys gets hurt when you go into the playoffs, look, it's not like the roster. If you have a healthy roster in week 14, that's great, but you might get 2 weeks down the road when your receivers goes down, you could plug him in.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yep.
Do you guys usually have a consistent time that you do your waivers on Tuesday? Or
No, like 1 in the morning.
Okay. Basically, 5 minutes before it's due. I'm a morning guy. I'm up with my kids early, and so usually, when we're settled in there and they're playing with dolls or whatever, I try to put them in. And just to sort of put my money where my mouth is, like this morning, other than attempts for Isaac Guerendo, obviously, it's all defenses and kickers for me. Just to sort of underscore that, maybe an occasional Westbrook-Ikhine, but it's much more of the kickers, the defenses, the rare Isaac Guerendo, maybe a quarterback, and that's where my pick will land. It's Russell Wilson. We talked about him a little bit earlier on. The schedule is good in some ways, at least in the short term, and it kind of depends on what you feel about his Week 16 matchup. So the Browns this upcoming weekend, we saw Bo Nix throw for nearly 300 yards last night. Just needed to be a little bit less turnover prone. Eagles in Week 15, you don't like that.
Nope.
Baltimore in Week 16, maybe you like that. Right, because we have seen Baltimore really struggle this season, but they played the Steelers to an absolute, like that was a pitcher's duel when those two teams played. Pittsburgh won that game with 6 field goals. Kansas City in Week 17, Christmas Day. The Chiefs, that team, not playing as great a defense of late, and if you go to Week 18 and they play the Bengals, you love that. So Russ certainly has a chance based off of matchups, based off of how he has performed. We just talked about it earlier on in waivers to provide you some boost there at that quarterback spot. But in order to get to the championship, you're going to have to kind of figure it out for those 2 weeks, weeks 15 and 16, when he goes Eagles, Ravens, both on the road.